I was in my house late at night. The kids were in bed, and I heard a knock at the door. I threw on a shirt and opened it. 3 men. Mi ote atinte wan akri, one said. We have talk. Come down from your house. They turned and walked underneath of my house, expecting me to follow. I always hated that the Wabaku language doesn't have a way to ask nicely. There's no direct way to make a polite request. You simply demand, come down. So I was already annoyed. And I was further annoyed by their arrogance, turning quickly and just assuming I would follow them. But I swallowed my annoyance and followed. We sat in the dark under my house. They each pulled smoke from their homemade cigarettes rolled in leaves. And in the red light of their cigarettes, I finally got a look at each of their faces. It was the 2 sorcerers from downriver and one younger guy who was rumored to be their understudy, the sorcerer in training. This ought to be interesting, I thought. We sat in silence. I waited for someone to speak, but nothing. After smacking a few mosquitoes off my neck, I finally spoke. Ta, ore ote. All right, what talk? I asked, ready to get this over with. The older sorcerer, who they called Kellogg's, like the cereal, finally spoke. He wasn't from our language group, so he spoke in Pidgin. And he said this. We know you get your food from the secret spirit door in the bush, he began. But this is what's going to happen. If you pay us, we will leave that spirit door open, and you can continue to live here. But if you don't pay us, we will use our black magic and close that spirit door. Then you and your family will go hungry, get skinny, and eventually have to leave. All the other missionaries that once lived here, he explained, they refused to pay us, and now they're all gone. The whole village already knows this, so you tell us, do you want us to use our power against you too or not? Tell me about this spirit door, I replied. What do you mean, secret spirit door in the bush? We already know your secret, they said. When no one is looking, you sneak into the bush at night to the secret spirit door, and that's where you get all your food and your supplies. We don't know where the spirit door is, only you do, but we know how to close that spirit door. And that's what we'll do with our black magic if you don't pay us. How much money are you asking for? I asked. They looked at each other to confirm their agreed upon price. 3,000 kina, one said. And maybe more later, said another. 3,000 kina was equivalent to about $1,000. All right, let me get this straight. I repeated back to them. If I pay you 3,000 kina, you'll leave the spirit door open and we can stay. But if I say no, you'll close the secret spirit door with black magic and our hunger will force us out. Yes, 3,000 for now, maybe more later, they repeated. And then they added some pressure. If you don't pay us, it won't just be your hunger that drives you out. We'll tell everybody in the village that you won't listen to us. And then they'll be afraid and they'll drive you out. Got it, okay, all right. Well, I have to talk to my coworker Clint before I answer you, I told him. So let's meet tomorrow morning at the meeting house, all 5 of us. They agreed and left my house. I went back inside and waited for them to walk out of sight. I told Lakin what was going on, and then I walked over to my coworker's house. I walked through the dark, knocked on his door. He didn't give me the same courtesy by putting a shirt on. Sorry it's late, I said, but we've got something to talk about. We sat in his living room, and I told him what the sorcerers were demanding. Clint's wife Ashlyn walked in, and we all collectively rolled our eyes together again at the situation. And I'm pretty sure it was Ashlyn that said, we're being extorted by witch doctors. It must have been her that said that because I didn't know the word extortion, and she was always a bit smarter than the rest of us. So then Clint and I sat and talked it out. What do we do? We joked that our missionary handbook didn't have a chapter on what to do when extorted by witch doctors. But we knew that the situation was serious. We weren't afraid of their black magic. Our food obviously came from the mission plane that gave us a supply flight every few months, not some secret spirit door. But the real threat is what they said to add pressure. If you don't pay us, they said, we'll tell the whole village They'll be angry you're not listening to us, and they'll make you leave. They were threatening to turn public opinion against us. And as those at the top of the social pyramid, that was a threat that they could actually back up. If the witch doctors are angry, it is believed that they can send evil spirits to kill people. Angry sorcerers means Wabaku people will die. So we knew the village would demand that we do pay these witch doctors so that they're not the victims of our not playing ball. The trap was already set. The lie that every previous Wabaku missionary refused to pay them and was therefore driven away had already been spread. They had good leverage. It was actually a pretty clever scheme. To say yes and pay up meant bowing and submitting to their power, but to say no meant the village would believe we're putting all their lives in danger by angering the sorcerers, and they wouldn't stand for that. So Clint and I made a plan, a risky one, and then I went back home and tried to get to sleep. The next morning, Clint and I walked to the meeting house with stern faces. But the sorcerers were lighthearted, making jokes, expecting the biggest payday of their lives. That kind of money in their world, 3,000 kina, it's pretty big. They had us, they thought, and perhaps they did. I began the meeting by repeating their terms. If we pay you 3,000 kina, you'll leave us alone. But if we don't pay, you'll use your black magic against us to cut off our food, and you'll tell the whole village we're not cooperating. Yeah, that's it, they confirmed. You can pay us now, or we can go back to your house and get the money, whatever you want. Okay, here's what's gonna happen, I said, mustering my courage. Go ahead and use your black magic. Close that secret spirit door. But don't just lightly close it. Close it strong, with all the power you have. Because here's what's true. The Creator has sent us here, and He's much more powerful than your black magic. He sent us here to share His talk with the people of Wabaku. So if He wants us to stay, He'll keep us here, even if you use all your power to try and stop us. So go ahead and do your best, and we'll see whose power is stronger, yours or the Creator's. If your power is stronger, you're right, we'll get hungry, we'll have to leave. But if the Creator's power is stronger, He'll let us stay. They stopped smiling. Then they tried to tighten the screws a little bit. We'll tell the whole village you won't listen to us, they said. They'll be afraid and make you leave. Use whatever power you have, I said. We already know the Creator's power is so much stronger. You will never be able to beat it. Then they tried a different approach. Okay, just pay us 1,000 kina instead of 3,000 and we'll leave you alone. No, we're not going to pay you anything, Clint said. We want to see whose power is stronger. They stood up angrily. They didn't shake hands, didn't say goodbye. Clint and I were left there alone and sat together and prayed. Something like this. God, this isn't Mount Carmel, but please, would you show up again and win this contest too? Then I walked home with my favorite Bible verse kind of echoing in my ears, 1 Samuel 14:6. Jonathan takes his armor bearer and decides to try to take on the whole Philistine army, just the two of them. He says this, "Come on, let's go over to the camp of those uncircumcised men. Perhaps the Lord will intervene for us." For us, if God didn't, we would soon be packing our bags and returning to America for good. We couldn't fight the sorcerers' social influence the way they could manipulate the village against us. And maybe we were putting God to the test. Maybe He didn't want to show His power like this. Or maybe we had created the space for God to do something cool. Either way, there was no turning back now. The enemy approached to attack, and this was our response. We were already charging up that hill. Perhaps the Lord will intervene for us.